Okay, welcome to the assignment number 1 demo. My name is Bill Kirtley. I'll be your instructor for this class, and I will be posting these demos from time to time just to help you get your good start on these assignments. So this one is going to be assignment number 1, and I'm just going to open up one file and kind of demo it. It's going to really be the same process for each file you're working with. I'm going to start with take a look at my workspace, and if it's not set up, you can just go to workspace and essentials, and should end up looking something like this. You might have different palettes a little bit, but the two we're going to be really working with today are layers and paths, and if you don't see either one of them, you can go over here to Window and you can open those up. Okay, so I like to have my layers and paths palette together because they kind of work hand in hand. Alright, so I'm going to open up our first file, and I have a demo file here, and it says in the instructions that it should be, and this file should be prepped okay, it should be 9 inches by 6 inches at 144 pixels per inch, and this image is that. If your other files are not, then you can start a new document that's actually those dimensions, 9 by 6 at 144 white. Don't worry about the color mode at this point. We'll talk more about that as we're kind of going. And you can click OK, and then what we can do is, if your other file is not the correct size, we can select all and edit and copy that, and then edit paste. Okay. Or you can place it, or in the instructions says just drag it to your document. You can do that as well. But this file is actually set up correctly, correct resolution, correct size. You need to take a look at that because really do need to make sure everything is set to spec for the instructions. Okay, so we're going to make a tracing of this. Now remember, when we're using the pen tool, we're making a path, and then we're going to make a selection from that path, and then we're going to stroke that selection. It's important to know that. That pen tool is really the best tool to make selections with, because then you can go in and manipulate the path and tweak it and get it exactly the way you want it. Now I'm just going to do a quick demo on how it works, and I'd like for you to take a little more time and make sure you're accurate with your curves and your straight lines. Okay, so I'm going to kind of show you how this tool works, and under there you'll see some other tools. We'll talk about these. This is the tool we're going to be using today, and basically these tools are kind of helper tools, but this is the one we want to use today. So make sure it's set to that one. We'll also be using these tools right here. I'll kind of show you what those are here in just a second, but let's start with the pen tool. And it's important that before you start drawing, you need to know that we are drawing a path, and there's already one drawn for you in here. You can see that one. That one is actually just a demo to kind of show you what it should look like. You can leave that, or I would just throw it away into the trash because it could just get in your way. So just throw that one away if you got it. Alright, so usually when I'm working with the pen tool, I'm going to create a new path because I'm going to name it what I want it to say. I'm just going to call it trace. And I should end up with, I have a background layer and then a tracing layer. Well, I really need another layer to trace on. We don't want to trace right on the background. So I'm just going to say new, go over to the pull down over here to the side on layers, and new layer, and we're going to call this the tracing layer. Okay, or you can call tracing. There we go. Yeah, okay, and click OK. So I have two layers. One is totally transparent, and that's under the layers, and then under paths I have a tracing path named so that when I start drawing, it's going to actually draw in that layer right there. Okay, so layers, paths. Okay, so we're getting ready to draw a path. I'm going to get the pen tool, and usually I'm going to look for a corner to start at. They're really hard to start in the middle of a curve, as those are really the hardest things to really get right. So I'm going to start at a corner, and this might be a good spot, and I'll just click, And these are straight, so I'm just going to go to each point and click. Okay. Now this is a curve, and I'm going to put 2 control nodes on here just to have a little more control over this. So I'm going to go to about right here and click and drag. Okay. That's called a Bezier curve. And a Bezier curve has 2 control points and a control node right in the middle. If you need a little more info on that, go to the lynda.com link I sent you. You can kind of look through that lesson on using the pen tool. But I'm just going to continue using this. Okay, one right there, and then maybe one right here. Okay, so I got a nice smooth transition. I'm going to have to smooth that out a little bit, but that's okay. Now here's where a lot of people get confused. If I try to go this way, you'll see what happens. I get that blip there. Well, we want to change the direction of this Bezier curve. So the best way to do that is to eliminate one of these control nodes. Okay, and the way we do that is I'm going to hold the Option key down on Mac. Now it might be Control or Command on PC. I'm not really sure, but on Mac it's Option. And then I'm going to click right on that middle node. You'll see that little V. Basically, it's going to convert it. It's going to eliminate one of those control nodes. So I'm just going to hold Option and click. You'll see that one of the control nodes disappears, and I'll show you kind of what those do here in just a minute. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to match these nodes here, just so that I get the same kind of shape and amplitude. And again, I'm just going to try to keep these curves kind of following right around, and I can help that just by watching those control nodes. I can come back and adjust these in a minute. I'll show you what tool to use for there. So I'm just going to kind of try and match that. You can kind of see it helps to try to match these because as we're going, and that one's going to come to about right here, we've already drawn them over here, so we've kind of proven that that's how that's going to work. Alright, so I'm going to just keep coming down, and I think I can probably go here. That's working pretty good. Now, anytime I need to change direction, like a right angle or a sharp angle, I'm going to get rid of one of those control nodes by holding Option and clicking the middle anchor point. Now we have straight points here. Those are easy. Just going to each point and clicking. There we go. And we have just a slight little curve right here. All right. And got a slight curve there. Now this is changing direction, so I'm going to use the Option click on the middle node, and I'm looking at where that one is. And let's kind of bring that up. Looks pretty good. That one's about right there, so we'll do that. And this one going to be a little longer. Looks good. Click. Oops, I got to watch that one. I need to undo that anchor point. You can always step backwards if you need to. I'm just going to step backwards to my last point. There it is right there. And just click and drag. Okay. Changing direction. Click. Pop. There we go. And to finish out that path, to close it, you're going to see that little 0 show up behind your pen tool. That means you're closing that path. There we go. We should have a closed path. If I look over here, I can kind of see a little thumbnail of what that path should look like. And it looks pretty good. It looks pretty complete. You really want a complete path when you're doing this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, and what we need to do is make a selection from that path. It's not a path yet. We haven't really, hadn't given any thickness or any weight. It's just a path that's just waiting to be something done with it. So I'm going to click on that path. It's real important that that's selected, and then I'm going to make a selection from that path. Now this is kind of important. We do not want to feather this because we are putting a stroke on it. If we feathered it, it'd be a real soft stroke. We want a nice solid stroke. Any aliasing is going to make it kind of nice and smooth, and then we're going to make it a new selection. We could keep adding and more if we wanted to keep drawing paths, but we're just doing one new selection. There we go. That looks pretty good. What we might want to do is actually, I'm going to go back to my layers, and I'm going to turn off my background layer just to kind of see how that looks. Okay. Now once we stroke this, it's gonna be kind of a done deal. We can always go back and adjust the path and then re-stroke it. So I just want to make sure that it looks pretty smooth. So you might want to zoom in. Okay, and there's some issues right here. So I'm gonna deselect, and I just want to check that path. So you always want to zoom in and look at this path before you go any further. And this is the tool we're going to use to select that path. You can kind of see these two tools here. This is going to select that whole path. You see it right there. You can see right there where it wasn't that smooth. And then this is the direct selection, and it will select the individual nodes. Okay, so you have those two tools right there. But I need to move this back, so I'll just go edit step backward. Alright, so I'm going to use this tool and see where it is, and I can see I'm way off there. So I'm going to go back in, and I'm just going to start tweaking some of these curves. And what I want to happen is I want to try to get it right in the middle of our template, so that it goes right down the middle of that line. Okay, so you're going to really need to zoom in on this to get it real accurate, and you can get it very accurate if you use that zoom tool. Okay, so I'm just going to try to get it to go right down the center of all these lines, because when Photoshop strokes it, you can tell it to do inside or outside, but we want to try to get it as close as possible to this. So setting it in the center should really make it pretty close. Okay, and you can see here I got some adjustments to do, and I'm going to adjust the amplitude of this curve just by this is a control node, so I'm going to kind of grab that and make sure it's going down the center. Here we can do that the same here, and it looks like I need to move this one in. You can kind of see that right there. I'm just going to keep tweaking this till I get it kind of where I want it, and that's pretty far off there. So we want to kind of watch where our nodes are, trying to control this. I'm going to have to go back and move this a little bit. Okay. So I want you to get in and really tweak these paths, try to get them right in the center of that shape. Okay. And when you're done, you guys can go in and tweak that. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. Just go back and check and see, make sure that you're like right in the center of that. Okay, and then once we are, I'm going to go ahead and make that selection again. Remember, I'm selecting the path. All right, there we go. Looks good. Make sure you're on the layer that does not have the background. So we want to trace on a separate layer. So I'm going to stroke that selection. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to give me a nice solid stroke on that. So I'm just going to edit stroke, and I'm going to make it 100% black. Okay, right now it's 0% cyan, 0 magenta, 0 yellow, 100% black, and click OK. And I'm going to do center, since I centered it on that line, and 4-point stroke. I'll click OK. There we go. It's a nice smooth stroke there. I could probably really tweak it a little closer, but that's probably good for me. I'd like for you to get in and really tweak that. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And for the lesson file, it tells you to put your last name and underscore trace. So last name with the word trace, and I am just going to click save. Okay. Also, you can save these selections. Like once I make the selection, it tells you can save this selection as trace. Okay. So I can always come back and reload that selection if I needed to. Okay. All right, that's quick. All right, so deselect, and I'm just going to go back to my layers, and if we look, you kind of see my tracing. Yeah, I really need to go back in and tweak that. Guys, really go in and tweak your path before you stroke it. You can always go back in and adjust your path and then restroke it if you need to. Okay. All right, so that's the assignment 1. If you have any questions, please just email me. I'll be happy to get back to you if you have any issues. Okay? All right, welcome to the class, and hopefully next week I'll have another one for you for the next lesson. Okay, good luck, and email me if you have any issues. Thanks. See you soon.